Folks, on Friday, we lost a great freedom fighter in Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. She served with distinction for more than 30 years representing the 18th Congressional District in Houston. Anyone who knows her knows her booming voice. She was ubiquitous at various events in Houston. She was going to speak, and she was going to be armed with a resolution and other items as well. You name it, she was there. She replaced Craig Washington. She beat him for that particular seat. This is the same seat that was held by one of the greatest members of Congress, Mickey Leland, and also the great Barbara Jordan. And so she took pride in that particular distinction. Of course, I've known Sheila Jackson Lee longer than anybody else in Congress. When I worked at the Houston Defender as an intern in 1990, her office was actually shared an office with an attorney right next door in our building. And so, again, so she was a judge. She served the city council before getting elected to Congress. She ran for mayor in the fall, losing to State Senator John Whitmire. In the course, she then ran to the primary and won the primary, but announced shortly thereafter that she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. I knew something was different. This was the last time she was on our show, but I knew something was different when I saw her at the funeral of Reverend Dr. William Lawson at Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church. And I saw how frail she looked. Her voice sounded a lot different. And I texted some fraternity brothers who knew her well, and they told me that cancer had returned. She beat breast cancer before, but pancreatic cancer came back viciously in the fall. And again, we lost her on Friday. Now, her services have been established. It's going to be a week-long services there in Houston. Of course, earlier this week on Monday, the Congressional Black Caucus did a special tribute to her in the U.S. Capitol. Her body will lie in state at the Houston City Council, of course, where she served. On Monday, July 29th, the public can pay respects where she'll be lying in state in the City Hall Rotunda from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central. Tuesday will be a viewing and a service at God's Grace Community Church, taking place from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Community viewing and a farewell service will be held at Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church in 3rd Ward on Wednesday, July 30th. The viewing begins at 11 a.m. with the service starting at 3 p.m. And her Celebration of Life service will take place at 11 a.m. on Thursday, August 1st. At Fallbrook Church. Folks must pre-register to attend that particular service. As I said, she passed away July 19th at the age of 74 after a brief battle with pancreatic cancer. As I said, absolute fierce champion. So many folks knew her well, including my next guest, Claude Cummings Jr. He's the president of the Communication Workers of America. Also, gospel artist Yolanda Adams, legal analyst Monique Presley as well. And then we're going to, of course, be also joined with the mayor of Houston, Sylvester Turner. Let me first go to, Sylvester's actually there. Let me first go to Mayor Turner. You knew her well. You, when you were mayor, you would see her wherever you went. She likely was there. We used to always joke in H-Town that if that microphone was free for 30 seconds, Sheila was gonna grab it.
Hey, Ron. Sheila was everywhere. Okay, she was working every day. She never took off. Serving the people of the 18th Congressional District and beyond. That was her mission. And she loved doing it. Okay? She loved doing it and she did it well. I think I described her as the people's champion, an exceptional public servant. And yes, she was in Congress. But let me tell you, her focus was on meeting the needs of people in her district. And no one was left out. No one. Now, you can differ with her on the politics, but you have to admire her for her work ethic and her love for community. And I've known her for 44 years, and I'll miss her.
Claude?
Yes, thank you, Roland, and to your guests and to Mayor Turner and Yolanda. We've lost a true champion in Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. It's simple as that. I never saw her back down for a fight on behalf of working people, And her track record of accomplishments in Congress includes legislation that uplifted countless families. Wherever I travel, and I travel a lot of places around this country, I always get asked about Sheila. Claude, how is Sheila Jackson Lee doing? And she was a champion. CWA called her a champion. And she was a champion for labor. But she stood up for working people, and she had a 100% voting record in Congress for legislation that was important to working people. And let me say this about her. Mayor Turner talked about her commitment. I don't care what type of storm we had. I don't care if it was a hurricane. I don't care if we had freezes that were taking place here. Sheila made sure that this community, not just the 18th Congressional District, but every person who needed something from her, they got it.
Right.
Well, we watched her truck milk in here during COVID for children. And there were families from all over this county that would come up and ask for milk for their children. The government couldn't even find milk, but somehow Sheila found milk for children and had it shipped in here. When there are storms, when there are floods, Sheila would get out in boats, put on gear herself, and pull people out of their homes. That's just the kind of person she was. She understood clearly the people didn't work for her. She worked for them. Right. And she did it well, and she is going to be missed.
Yolanda Adams, you're shaking your head there. And as I said, you're native there in Houston. And anybody knows if you went to an event in H-Town and you went to a black event, she may not be at the beginning of the program, but she gonna walk in there with a folder in her hand with a resolution.
Yeah, you are so right, Roland. I used to ask her, how did she get from one side of town to the other side of town right at the nick of time to be called to do what she does? I mean, it's amazing, growing up in the city, seeing her impact, knowing how much she fought for every individual in this, not just in the state, but just in the world. She just loves people. And right. Sometimes people who love people the way she loves people, with all of the agendas that had to be met for the day, sometimes, you have to look at like, wait a minute, okay, when does she sleep? When does she get a chance to eat? When does she rest? But she would rather be a champion for the people and then eat when she could let go lacking. And so those are the things that I am going to remember about her. I am going to always remember her steadfast love for her city. She loved the city of Houston. And let me tell you something, just like she loved the city of Houston and the state of Texas, she loved gospel music so much so that she made them give us a month. She made them give us a resolution. She made them see gospel music as the historic part of the American fabric that it is. So my hat has always been off to her. My love and my heart has always been for her. I will make sure that the world knows that without Sheila Jackson Lee, a lot of the stuff that happens in gospel music would not have happened without that champion in the Hall of Congress. Right.
Now, I guarantee you, all three of y'all have experienced what I'm about to tell y'all. So I was at, and I'm going to try to see if I can find a photo. I was at a Houston Texans game, and Congresswoman was there with Carl Davis. Okay. And she tells me about this gospel concert happening at the Kennedy Center. I was like, oh, okay, all right. 2 weeks later, I get an email with the run of show. And I respond and I say, I'm sorry, when did I agree to MC this event? And so when that night, and I think, Yolanda, you may have performed that night. That night, I was killing her on the microphone. Oh, I was killing her. I was like, y'all didn't even pay for my parking. Oh, I was killing her. I had, then I told her, I said, look, Congresswoman, look, we can't be here all night, so you can't preach a sermon because Mayor Turner, she'll try to preach a sermon in a heartbeat.
She will.
Yep.
But let me tell you, um,
Yep.
you were going to do it Sheila Jackson Lee's way,
Right.
or she was going to find a way to turn what you wanted into the Sheila Jackson Lee way.
That's right.
That's
That's right.
Sheila. And on that same line, as mayor, Sheila would bypass me, and she would call directly to my department head. So I called Sheila. I said, Congresswoman, if you need something, call my chief of staff or call me, but don't go directly to my department heads. Okay? Okay, brother. Okay, brother. I hear you. That lasted only for a minute. And she went right back and did it again and again and again. But look, let me tell you, you were not going to say no
No.
to Sheila Jackson Lee. When her mind was set, that was it. Okay? Right. And that is what made her the great person that she was. Right. Because we all knew she loved people, loved communities, and wanted to make things better. And let me tell you, she was tough, but she had a gentle heart.
That's right.
She was tough, but a gentle heart.
Clark, go ahead.
And, I was going to tell you something that you'll never see in the newspaper that she's done. You'll probably never hear a congressmember say anything about this. But I was elected vice president of the local CWA union here back in 1986. And Sheila would call me about donations. And we'd send a check for $2,000, $3,000. And one day she grabbed me and she said, Claude, why is it we only get this small amount of money? All of the white Congress members are getting $10,000 a cycle. And that's what we could legally give. And so I started asking questions. And what I was told is that, well, Claude, Black Congress members are in what we call safe districts. So they don't need the same amount of money that white Congress members have. And I said, listen, that doesn't sound right. So I started doing some investigations, and I found out that they just were not giving them the money when they should. And so I started raising hell about it, not just in CWA, but all across the country. And because of that, we started maxing out with all of our Congress members, $10,000 a cycle. And not only did it spread here in Houston, but it spread across the country, because I let it be known that we should not be treating our Black Congress members different than we were treating the white Congress members. Mm-hmm. And so every Black Congress member that's getting their full share of donation that we can legally give are getting it now, simply because Sheila Jackson Lee raised that question with me. And I made sure that started happening. Al Green talks about it all.
Yep.
When he speaks and introduces me. But it was because of Sheila raising that issue that is happening now.
Yolanda, I know you got a surprise Sheila Jackson Lee story.
Listen, we don't have enough time. That was my surprise Sheila Jackson Lee story. Listen, well, one of the things like Mr. Claude and our mayor, he's still my mayor. There was a time when they were taking out some of the funds for my grandmother's district, where they were cutting out some of the senior programs and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I don't know what I can do. I'm going to give a call to Sheila Jackson Lee. Called her, and everything worked out. But then she said, hey, I need you in Washington in 48 hours because I need you to pray on the floor of Congress. And I'm like, you just gave me 48 hours. That's all I got, 48 hours. And I'm like, okay, I'll be there. So yes, Roland, I've had many conversations where it was like, hey, I need you here for this. And because of all that she's done for our great city, our great state, our great globe, I was there. You know me. If it wasn't, if it was a contract issue, it may have been like, But no, anytime I could be there, she was hilarious too. She had a sense of humor.
You did.
Yeah.
Yep, you did.
Absolutely. Well, she is certainly going to be missed. She was in. Look, as you said, you like, man, woman, will you slow down all the stuff you keep going to? But that's how she was. Houston is going to honor her next week. Certainly. Yeah, go ahead.
And smart.
I want to add one thing. We owe a great deal to her family.
Yes.
Right.
She's been married. She was married to Ellen for more than 50 years.
Yes.
Okay. And to Erica and to Jason, that family gave a lot, sacrificed a lot.
Right.
And I just want to remember them and thank them. And thank them.
Yeah.
Because when she was with us and everybody else, she was not with them. But it was a family deal. They knew their mom.
Yes.
And they understood her mission.
Yep.
And living out her purpose. And they just was right there. So in her latter days, I can't tell you the love and affection that they gave to their mom and Ellen gave to his wife. So, and quite frankly, it still hadn't dawned on me.
Right.
Because she was our superwoman.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Indeed.
I'm just gonna say I never thought in my life that there'd be a time when Sheila wasn't around.
Right.
Simple as that. And she was one of the smartest people I know.
Right.
Roland, once I was asked to introduce her at an event here in Houston, and her staff had prepared her for the wrong event. And she stepped up to me and she said, Claude, I just need 15 minutes. Just give me 15 minutes. You filibuster, do whatever you need to do, but give me 15 minutes. And I watched her prepare a speech in 15 minutes. She spoke for 30 to 40 minutes on the theme for that particular event. She was just absolutely brilliant, to be quite honest with you. And that just absolutely amazed me to see her be able to do that when she wasn't, her staff had prepared her for the wrong type of event. But just how smart she was.
Indeed. Yolanda Adams, Claude Cummings, my alpha brother, Sylvester Turner. I appreciate y'all sharing your thoughts and reflections regarding the late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Thanks, Roland.
Thanks, Roland.
All right. Thank you, Roland. Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it.
That's how Sheila was. She was a person who was obsessed with taking care of people and changing the world and making life better for everyone. Our personal friendship was deep and broad. You remember she received the John Lewis Award recently for the most amount of 1 minute. And she called me that morning. She says, Barbara, I can't be there, but I want you to accept this award for me. I said, Sheila, they're not going to let me accept an award for you. She said, just do like I would do and tell them you're going to accept it anyway. But that was Sheila. She would not take no for an answer. Also, finally, let me just say, I was her personal photographer. Many of you may have been also. Sheila wanted to make sure she was in every single picture, and if a real photographer wasn't around, she pulled me. And I was looking at my pictures. I have more pictures of Sheila than myself because she made sure she got those pictures taken. But they weren't necessarily for her. They were for her constituents, for her family, for her grandchildren, for her husband. She wanted people to know and to be informed about her work as their public servant. Sheila deserves to rest now. She was a force of nature. Her spirit will live forever. She was fearless, she was loving, she was powerful. And I'm reminded of one scripture, 2 Timothy, and this reminds me of Sheila. For God did not give us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. May Sheila's soul rest in peace, may she rest in power, and may she rest. God bless you.
Folks, welcome back. Scott Bolden, We talk about force of nature. And again, if you were anywhere in D.C., in Houston, hell, you never know when Sheila Jackson Lee was going to pop up. She was going to be there, and you were going to hear that booming voice.
And she loved being there. You could ask Sheila to say a few words if she showed up, and she was a great extemporaneous speaker. I knew Sheila before she was a congressman by reputation because she was an incredible litigator out of Houston. She was a judge. She was very active with the NBA, and she was brilliant as a practitioner. And then secondly, let me just say this, that when you take over the seat of someone like Barbara Jordan or Mickey Leland,
yeah,
there's a whole lot of uplift. You gotta fill those shoes. And I think she didn't just fill those shoes in her service. She exceeded and built upon what her predecessors did. And she was known for that. And she was respected by the Republicans. They didn't like her, but she was certainly respected because when she started talking in that booming voice, she knew how to use voice inflection to make her point. And she spoke with authority because she was a former judge. And you believed it. I don't think she left anybody in disbelief or people saying, well, I don't agree, a whole lot of time. So she was an awesome lady. Godspeed.
Rebecca, she was a proud member of your sorority. And in fact, two of the members of Congress, both women, it was Eddie Bernice Johnson and Sheila Jackson Lee. We lost Eddie Bernice Johnson last year, also an AKA. This is a photo of the 9 AKAs in Congress. You see Sheila right there in the middle between Lisa and Alma Adams as well. Just your thoughts about the Congresswoman.
The Congresswoman was my soror. She was also my Link sister as a member of the Links Incorporated. And she is now an ancestor. What I will say, I remember when I first met her, when I was a young staffer on the Hill, I was scared of her. I was scared of her because she was very tenacious. She was very stern, but I also knew she was very effective and that it is important to have voices and Black voices in the halls of Congress who will speak truth to power, who will bring the power, who was undeniable. It didn't matter if people disagreed with her on the policies or on the politics, but you were going to respect her. You were going to listen to her. And that was a fact. And so to see more of our people transition and become ancestors, and also understand that, yes, there has to be a new generation that comes up, but there is so much intelligence. There's so much brain power. There is so much legacy. There's just so much that we will be losing from Congress by no longer having Congresswoman Jackson Lee. The other thing that I would say, I remember I was on a flight from D.C. to Houston, and someone mentioned earlier about her, in fundraising. I never saw this before. But I remember she got up in the middle of that flight and she shook hands with a lot of people on the flight and was like, I am Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. And I think she was also asking for donations as well. So I would tell you, my eyes got real big because, I've been on flights with other members of Congress, but I'd never seen anyone get up and do that. But she did. And who was going to check her? Nobody. She was that person.
Monique Presley, we did a broadcast of Roland Martin Unfiltered in Houston, and we're like, okay, when the Congresswoman gonna get here? We run out of time. The show's gonna end, and she was calling. Now look, don't go off the air till I get there. This is a photo actually from that broadcast. Go right ahead, Monique. Go ahead.
Okay. I thought you were going to play something. Yeah, I have our text messages from that night, and they have given me some laughs and some comfort as I have been dealing with what, for me personally, is just a staggering loss. I'm a little Black girl from Texas who knew from the time I was 7 years old that I wanted to be a lawyer. who knew shortly thereafter that I wanted to be able to go and travel to DC, where people were doing things to change things in this country and to fight for justice. And in Texas, the heroes came out of the representatives of the 18th district. So I grew up emulating Barbara Jordan, Mickey Leland, wanting to be the defense lawyer extraordinaire like Craig Washington. And then there was Sheila Jackson Lee, who was everything all in one. She was a shero to me for as long as I can remember. But what matters and is in my heart the most is that it is very rare that someone who you admire and emulate from afar, who you grow up wanting to be like a shero, you actually end up getting to know and work with and march with and meet with and help with projects and call for help. And everything everybody else said is the absolute truth. When I found out that she had transitioned, all I kept doing was sending people picture after picture after picture of time she had popped up, time she had shown up, time we weren't sure if she was going to be able to make it because she was coming from another event, but then had to get there, times when she walked a group of ours who were advocating for justice for George Floyd straight into Senator Schumer's office. And then they had to put us like in the conference room because she had brought too big of a group. And she kept saying, no, everybody come, everybody come. And then she opened the meeting, even though it was his meeting. This was who she was. And that type of force, the force that is Sheila Jackson Lee, transcends a body. I know that her body is no longer here, but I refuse to believe that much energy, that much power, that much force, that much life, that much spirit is gone. I know that she's in me. And I don't have to wonder about what she would expect from me because she was always so very clear with her expectations. I remember the first time she turned to me publicly and said some kind words, but then right after them, she said, and do not stop. And so that is what is, that's what's sticking with me in my heart today.
Monique, Rebecca, and Scott, I appreciate y'all reflections on this tribute to Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Thanks so much. Folks, I want to turn right now to somebody who obviously knew her quite well. He represents a congressional district in Houston, my alpha brother, Congressman Al Green. Doc, how you doing?
Better than I deserve, man. Better than I deserve. And if I may say this, thank you for doing this, because with all of the news that we have, all of the things that could overshadow, you have decided to give her what she justly deserves for the time that she has served. And believe me, she served well.
We were going to do this on Monday, but then we had the Win with Black Men call, so I said, let's move it to Wednesday. Yeah. We absolutely were going to do it. I mean, just talk about, again, the two of you, simpatico, in Houston, tag teaming all over the city.
Well, you knew that whenever you were with Sheila, you had to bring your A game. Okay, you just couldn't show up and decide you were going to be on the program, because Sheila was going to bring her A game every time. So you had to be thoughtful. And she was always very sure. Sheila may not have always been right, but she was always sure. And you thought she was right, even if she was wrong. She really had that persona, that personality that just would envelop people. And she was a workaholic. She was the epitome of what a workaholic is.
Did you ever say, Sheila, slow down?
Well, you couldn't. It didn't make any difference. It wouldn't really. I remember once we went on a Codell together. I think it was either 7 or 10 days. Sheila had them stop the plane on the tarmac so that she could exit the plane and board another plane on the tarmac to go on another Codell. I mean, it was just that kind of energy in her, so that she wanted to do one thing after another after another. I don't know that she ever slept, really, because you could hear from her at any hour of the night, and she would always be alert, it appeared. She'd show up at any event. I'm gonna be honest with you. It wouldn't surprise me if Sheila showed up at her funeral. She was just there. She was there.
And she showed up, she gonna speak.
That's right. And I went to an event just recently with my Masonic Lodge, and you just expected Sheila to be there to give her commentary and to give encouragement. She was always giving encouragement. I know that she's going to be missed. She's missed already. She really is. But I know that what was said, I don't remember which of your guests, but she leaves a lot behind that will forever maintain this generation. I mean, this generation is going to have some of her in them. And I think we have to pass it on. She has given the torch. We have to pass it on. Now, I have to say this, Juneteenth. Juneteenth, as you know, is a very Texas holiday. Gordon Granger comes in.
Al Edwards.
That's right. Al Edwards is the father. But Al could not get it over the finish line at the national level.
Right.
Sheila pulled it over the finish line and made it a national holiday. So we don't ever want to forget Al, but I have to remember that Sheila was there too. They are two persons that will live forever in the annals of Texas history as people who wouldn't give up on something. I mean, she did not give up on that holiday, just as she did not give up on many other things that she engaged with. She was determined. And that determination is something that is unmatched, really.
A lot of times you have competition when you have members of Congress who are from the same city. And folk represent districts that are 700,000 members. Is it me? But did Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee believe she represented all of Houston, not just her district?
No, you're incorrect. She thought she represented all of the country. There were no boundaries for her, no boundaries for her. She believed that if something was happening, that it was her responsibility to be a part of it. And she would show up and let you know what her expectations were, and programs that were designed to be neat and only 2 or 3 people speaking. Sheila could come in and give a keynote speech at your program. She just felt that.
And the keynote speaker was sitting right there.
Right, and exactly. And the keynote speaker was applauding, But I do want to mention this before you run out of time. And I have to say thank you for what you're doing, because without this, we might not have the kind of history that we should have for her. Our legacy is sometimes lost, but you have brought on key people, and I see Gerald Womack over there.
Gerald Womack,
yeah.
Sonny Masai Giles, they up next.
Sonny, okay, and I saw, is that Clyburn?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a video of Congressman Clyburn
is there.
And we're gonna have Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis joining us too.
And you had the former mayor, Sylvester Turner. I heard also Claude Cummings, CWA president. Mm-hmm. So I just want to thank you for this, because this is what's missing. Well, if we don't record and maintain our history, who will? Who will?
No, that's why we have that mural in there from Freedom's Journal.
Yeah.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
Well said, dear brother. But we cannot allow others to define who we were and who we are. This is why it's so important to have the Juneteenth holiday, so that we can remind ourselves of what really happened on Juneteenth, about the 25th Army Corps.
Yep.
Those black men that came into Galveston.
Yep.
Gordon Granger read a proclamation, but the black men came in. Now that it's a national holiday, thanks to Sheila, this can be talked about, because Juneteenth is really about liberation. We do celebration, but it was about liberation.
Right.
And we got to talk about those liberators, and a good many of them were black.
Absolutely.
And Jackson Lee was a liberator.
Congressman Al Green, Frat, always good to see you.
Thank you, dear brother.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks a bunch.
All right.
Folks, we're going to go to a break. We come back. We'll be joined by more folks who knew Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee well. And I know they got some stories. You're watching this tribute to Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who passed away Friday at the age of 74 from pancreatic cancer, on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Coming soon to the Black Star Network.
I still have my NFL contract in my house. I have it in a case. It's for my 4-year contract. I got a $600,000 signing bonus. My base salary for that first year was $150,000. Matter of fact,
$150,000.
$150,000. That's what I made. $150,000. Now think about it. My signing bonus was a forgivable loan, supposedly. When I got traded to the Colts, they made me pay back my signing bonus to them. I had to give them their $600,000 back.
Wow.
Yeah, I was so pissed. Because, man, I try to be a man of my word. I'm like, you, I'll give you your money back. You know, even though I know I earned that money, I gave them that money back. I gave them $600,000 back. But yet, I was this malcontent. I was a bad guy. I'm about the money. It wasn't about the money. It was about doing right. Because I looked at, because you look at contract. Look at John Elway. John Elway was making $1 million, $800,000. I was making $150,000. I mean, I was doing everything. And I'm like, but yet I was, man, I got so many letters, so I just play for free and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you don't forget that kind of stuff.
Right.
That stuff is hurtful.
Me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you're watching, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
To you, Roland, and all those gathered, thank you very much for honoring Sheila Jackson Lee in this manner and for allowing me to be a part of it. As many of you know, I served 2 terms, really 2 entities, but 4 terms, as House Majority Whip. And it's a whip's job to gather the votes and to make sure when an issue comes to the floor, that the votes are there to pass it. During my tenure as Majority Whip, one of my chief deputy whips was Sheila Jackson Lee. Now, when you decide to get a chief deputy whip, you do so because you want someone who can really help, not just translate what may or may not be in a piece of legislation, but develop the kind of relationships that are required to get people to go along with the vote and to get the bill passed. Sheila was one of the best. She did not mind approaching people, asking for their vote, and she was very adept at getting people to understand the issues at hand. Most people remember her from television, where she was speaking out on many, many different subjects. But the fact of the matter is, in and around tables, Sheila knew the issues very, very well. She had a very good way of explaining them, and she had the relationships that were necessary to get them to final passage. Of course, everybody remember how diligent she was when she took up the mantle of reparations. H.R. 40 became her middle name, and she fought for that legislation and for the entire time that she was here in the Congress. And so I want to thank you for honoring her in this way. But for a prior commitment, I would be there with you. But thank you for letting me participate in this manner. And to all of you in attendance, Godspeed.
Jim Clyburn of South Carolina is joining us right now, folks. Three people who knew the Congresswoman quite well from Houston. Sonny Messiah Giles, publisher of the Houston Defender. Gerald Womack is president and CEO of the Womack Development and Investment Realtors, and Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis. Sonny, I'll start with you. How many times did you get that phone call from Sheila at the last second about putting her in that week's paper before you went to deadline?
I got that call more than you could count. And I think you know that, Roland, because you were in the room sometime when she would call. But you know what? When I look back on my relationship with Sheila, I first met Sheila in my mom's kitchen. Is when she was running for Harris County judge. The 3 races that she lost, this sister was persistent, if nothing else. People don't realize that Sheila, having lost, just fed more energy for her to win. So it was like in meeting her, she was the kind of person that she wasn't going to give up. I don't care what you said or what you did. And I'm sure my fellow colleagues on this call would say amen.
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 This is this week's front page of the Houston Defender. Quite fitting to have Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee right there with Vice President Kamala Harris, Sonny.
It's so monumental. Someone said to me on the call Sunday night when all the Black women were on the call that it's like an angel. Sheila is up there working God about getting a Black woman elected president. And I was like, she might be up there doing that. I mean, she was that kind of person. She wasn't going to give up, especially if she had a mission.
Gerald, I would often go home and I would see the Congresswoman in Houston. Hell, I might see her in D.C. You were right there.
Yeah, I moved her to Washington, moved up there with her to Washington, picked out the office, had a big old hat, and was so excited Sheila had won to be the congressperson of the 18th district. Sheila loved this district every night, every day. I've never seen a person that would get out of session and hit and get off the plane and go right off churches and shake hands, kiss babies, and do all those things that other folks would not do that time of night. And I've got so many good memories of her. I'm going back to that article that the New York Times did where she said, all I want to do is make a difference. She said, I can't afford to write a check for it, but I can have a voice where I can make change. And I believe that was her motto. I remember we had one storm. I had a utility truck, and she said, you got to come over and pick me up. And I said, okay, I'll be there in just a moment. When I got there, we was at the end of, we got at the end of Martin Luther King and 610, and then we were a little further down, and the next thing I know, we were on a fire truck because we had a flood. And then the next thing I know, I was on a boat with a flashlight in the middle of the night telling people, come on out, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Sheila had passion to make a difference, and whatever she did, you can believe, like the president once said long ago, you want Sheila to be on your side. It hurts me because I've been a campaign manager for all these years, and we work so closely together every day and night to make a difference for the least of those. And, she was a hard worker. You could not outwork she. I would say, you've told me everything but the pills that you take that will keep you up all this time. And if you just tell me I'm selling real estate, I'm going to go out of the real estate business and I'm going to start selling some of these pills because she had that kind of energy. And God, we couldn't have enough. We wouldn't have the metric because Sheila bought those lines, those dollars, those federal resources here to build that. She bought all these other federal dollars for affordable housing. I mean, her immigration record, her office, my accolades is to her whole staff because
They were the Congress office for everybody. I don't care where you were from. You could call her office, and her office and her would work the issue out. So I am just so, I'm heartbroken. I know she's in a better place, but I know that she's up in heaven. As soon as she got there, she went right to work.
But Commissioner Rodney Ellis, no one has ever accused you of being a a quiet person. But man, you got to admit, it was always a little hard for that microphone when you were in the room with Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Sheila Jackson Lee, the congresswoman, was clearly one of a kind.
Yeah.
Unstoppable. Some people are just born for politics. Sheila Jackson Lee was one of those people. I met her shortly after she came to Houston. Elwin brought her to Houston.
Yeah, he did.
And Elwin was one that you would have thought would have ended up in politics. And of course, as my great friend Sonny Messiah mentioned, the Congresswoman ran for judge, I think 4 times.
3.
I was counting the primary to general. So if you count them all, that's 6 times.
That's true.
Becoming judge, I can remember once when my old boss, Congressman Mickey Leland, was trying to find people so blacks and Hispanics could take over the school board. With that Warwick Hotel at Leland's table, he said, "Call Sheila." And so I said, "Well, we talked to her already about this, Mickey. She does not want to run." He said, "Well, call her again. We want her house." So I called Elwin and I said, "Mickey Leland wants me to drive him over to you all's house." I was on city council, first term, to get Sheila to run for the school board. So he lied and said she was in Austin. And so I said, "Now, Elwin, we're coming to your house because I don't think you're telling." He said, "No, call her." So I was too dumb. I called her. She answered the phone. She said, "I'm in Austin." But he had enough time to tell her going over there. When she went on city council, it's interesting, the parallels. I've had the privilege of knowing all of the people who served in the 18th in contemporary history. Barbara Jordan, who went when I came out of high school, and to Mickey Leland, of course, Craig Washington, and then Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Sheila, more than anybody I know, was just so persistent. She was well read. Some of her colleagues would tell me about how she walked into a committee room late because she's doing 4 or 5 things with these 2 phones and always on the phone. And she'd lean over and say, "Now, what is this about?" And they briefly explain. And then Sheila would give a speech as though she'd been that whole time. Not just buffaloing through it. She was well read.
Yeah.
She reached back into that body of knowledge, things she knew about. And it was just like clockwork. When you think about it, a black woman, graduate, undergrad school from Yale, then to go to the University of Virginia Law School, I think came out about 75, the year I was coming out of undergrad school, just 4 years older than me. But this was an exceptionally bright human being, but she was driven. Some people would want to take a break. I remember once telling her, "Sheila, we need to do what normal people need to do." I was in the States and I said, "First of all, you're driving us crazy. Doing all of this stuff. You got to stop some of this. And for your own mental health, you need to go do what normal people do." So she said, "Okay, Rodney, what do they do?" I had to think about it. And I said, "Well, this is before Netflix." I said, "I think they go to movies." So she said, "Okay, let's go to movie, but it has to be at the end of my day." Okay, it's a Saturday night. Let's go about 8 o'clock. He shows up at my house at 10 o'clock. I got to explain to my wife, there's nothing untoward about this. Well, you and Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, just the 2 of you with you driving, and you can't see. So we go to a movie. And Gerald, we sitting there, and, I had the popcorn and all. She ate it all up. And then she gets some more popcorn. So I had to say, "Well, Congresswoman, I'm not on your staff. I'm enjoying this movie. We ate the popcorn." It's not on our diet. So she gets up, looks at the popcorn, some hat on her head, and some shade. And then 5 minutes later, of course, I got to run to the men's room, and people were saying, Would you tell Sheila we know who the hell you all are? My point is, everybody knew her. But even in the movie, she's texting. She's responding to people calling. She loved her work. And let me tell you, we're going to miss her. Whatever the issue was, whatever it was, no matter how late it was, if you wanted to get something done, you get somebody's business. That's what I was told once. You called Sheila Jackson Lee. Her colleagues are going to miss her. We're going to miss. What an incredible legacy. And Gerald, I know they say she's in a better place. But let me tell you, if they give her an assignment, they could give her a lot of them because she loves to work, even in her illness.
Right.
First, yeah, around, but once it was public, and we were out at Greenhouse International, one of her last public events. I said, "Well, now Sheila, you can't keep being around all these people." I could feel the port on her arm, so I knew she was getting treatment. And I said, "You can't." She leaned over, with that smile, but that serious eye. Rodney, you're my friend. You're not my doctor. What I want to do.
Well,
to the end.
That sounds like Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Commissioner Ellis, Gerald Womack, Senator Messiah Giles, we certainly appreciate y'all joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you for doing this for Sheila.
Right.
Absolutely. Folks, we talked about how she was no nonsense. This was a congressional hearing 5 years ago where she was not taking any guff off of one of Trump's people, Matt Whitaker. Watch this.
Mr. Holder here. Mr. Chairman, may I have my time restored? I think it was at 4 minutes.
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Again, Mr. Attorney General, the question is, did you have a confirmation hearing, and has it been more than 10 years since you testified before Congress?
Congresswoman,
Can the clock be restored?
It was. I'm sorry, what was your, I don't know if your time's been restored or not.
Mr. Attorney General, we're not joking here, and your humor is not acceptable. Now, you are here because we have a constitutional duty to ask questions, and the Congress has the right to establish government rules. The rules are that you are here. So I need to ask the question, and I need to have my time restored so that you can behave appropriately. I will behave appropriately as a member of the Judiciary Committee. I'm asked a question. Did you have a confirmation hearing, and have you not yet appeared for an oversight hearing?
Congresswoman, I am an acting Attorney General. I have been appointed according to the Vacancies Reform Act, and I have never appeared in front of Congress for any hearing, even when I was United States Attorney.
I'm asked for a yes or no answer. Is that? Yeah. Let me, and so you've never appeared. Let me quickly ask a question. Prior to the firing of former Attorney General Jeff Sessions, did you discuss or share your private opinions of the Special Counsel investigation with the Chief of Staff?
Right there, you saw her. She was like, hey, this ain't no joking matter. That was Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Absolutely, she is going to be missed by her constituents, by her colleagues. She was a tough cookie. Did not make it easy on her staff and on others. But she was somebody who was going to fight on behalf of people. She was going to stand up and speak for people. And this, of course, is a video here, her encouraging Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church to fight on behalf of social justice.